the parliament. And the sad part about this is the West doesn't even differentiate radical Islamists from regular Muslims. And there is a big difference. Most Muslims do just want to live in peace. They're always being attacked by jihadis, being funded by the West and by Saudi Arabia and others. And what stopped the bad guy up in Ottawa? Somebody with a gun. But that all pales in significance. And they're acting like it's the end of the world. It's being called in the news the Battle of Ottawa. 2 people dead. Meanwhile, we talk to medical doctors, and they tell us there's a cover-up going on. We're going to talk to one of those doctors straight ahead on the other side of this break. I'm Alex Jones. Tell your friends and family to tune in right now. The free audio streams and video at Infowars.com/show. Stay with us. In Texas, I have family in Dallas. It's my hometown. And in the last, really, 2 weeks, we talked to Dr. Edward Group, who was at a medical conference in Vegas, who talked to senior members of the Border Patrol and ICE, who were there trying to find alternative treatments and ways to bolster the Border Patrol and ICE's immune system and for their families. And they brought up former deputy head of the Border Patrol and now the head of the retirees union, Zach Taylor. And they said that his intel was that indeed they had CDC vehicles on the border and were picking up people they believed had Ebola and were whisking them away to unknown facilities. Then I was contacted by a medical doctor who manages a very large hospital that has other hospitals outside of it. I'll leave it at that. Who lived in Austin previously, lives in another major Texas city. I'll just say this, it has a pro football team. In fact, I'm already saying too much. The point is, he said exactly what the gentleman is about to say right now. And I was sitting on this for a week, trying to talk to other medical doctors I know in major cities, and they wouldn't talk to me. They just said, what you're hearing is what we're hearing, and we've got what looks like confirmation of it, but don't you say you talk to me. I don't want to lose my license or worse. They are disappearing people. Now, that's exactly what senior members of the current Border Patrol told us, and we have those whistleblowers. We were directed by some of these sources, as you know, 3 months ago. The New York Times later picked it up and admitted it was true, to McAllen, Texas. And then we're going to our guest, where the Border Patrol was loading the illegals and their kids up on buses with vouchers into the rest of the country. So our sources are good. Now, we're joined by James Lorenzi, and he works, Dr. Lorenzi works at the Cass Regional Medical Center in Garden City, Missouri. And he holds a D.O. and bachelor's degree in chemistry from Drury University and received his medical degree from Kansas City University of Medicine and Biosciences. He completed his internship and residency in family medicine at Truman Lakewood Medical Center and is affiliated with the Harrisonville Family Medicine, Inc., in addition to his practices in Archie Medical Clinic and Garden City Medical Clinic. Dr. Lorenzi serves as the collaborating physician for nurses, practitioners, and it goes through all of that. He joins us. He's a doctor of osteopathic medicine, which is another branch of the MDs. And he's saying exactly what a major medical doctor that I know personally told me, shaking with fear a week ago. And this is why I have trouble even doing the broadcast, why I've been very upset around the office, is because we're trying to document all this, and as we document it, it's horrifying. Now, he's got to leave. He's got patients in 10 minutes, so we're going to go to him. He'll be back on in the next few days for a full hour. We want to encourage other medical doctors or medical workers to call in. We can vet who you are, either protect your identity, or if you want to go public, that's fine. There's strength and safety in numbers. James, doctor, you have amazing courage. Thank you for doing this. We said you didn't have to use your name. You proved who you were. You still have given us that intel. Thank you. Tell us exactly what you know and what you're being told.
Well, so about 4 weeks ago, when this Ebola thing really started taking off here in the United States, and all of a sudden you started hearing about patients possibly having Ebola. The hospitals were beginning to test for it. Well, a friend of mine that's a resident at Truman Medical Center, which is where I did my residency at, called me and said, "Hey, we've got a possible Ebola patient here, and he's bleeding out of all of it. I'm not going to use the language he used, but he's bleeding out of all of his orifices. He's in septic shock, hypotensive, high fever. He was visiting Africa, or he was from Africa, I believe, and had recently been here in the Kansas City area. And excuse me, they took care of him in the ICU. Of course, it was not a rapid test, so they weren't sure, but I think they ordered the test and they sent it off, and they moved him to the ICU, and they put him in isolation, from what my friend had told me. The following day, he called me back, and I told him to let me know. Because I wanted to call your show. I wanted to let people know that, hey, we've got a case here in Kansas City. Well, he called me back the next day and said they disappeared the patient. I said, what do you mean they disappeared him? He said, the patient's gone. They were told that he left AMA, which means against medical advice, but the guy he wouldn't have been able to leave. I mean, he was in that bad of a shape. I said, well, look for John Doe, which is the name that they use in hospitals in case, that somebody's admitted that they don't know who you are. And there was no John Does in the hospital, so the patient disappeared. Well, the following day, they had a meeting with anybody that had contact with that patient, and said that he didn't have Ebola, he had malaria. Well, all of a sudden, that's when we heard that all these other cases in these other cities, they were coming back and saying, no, they didn't have Ebola, they had malaria. That seemed like that was that's what they were told to tell everybody. Well, then we had a second patient at Research Medical Center that was rumored to have, because I have friends there too, and they called me and said, we have a possible Ebola patient. That patient disappeared. There's a patient more recently at KU Medical Center, which is just down just across on the Kansas side, about 20 minutes from here. And that patient, I don't know what the status of that patient is, but they came out and said that he didn't have Ebola, but he had typhoid. So something very, very strange is going on. And I wouldn't have thought much about it, but this is happening in other areas of the country, not only in Kansas City. These patients are disappearing. They're doing something on the patients, and God knows where they're going.
Well, we have flights into Houston, flights into New York from Nigeria. That's the country the Ebola people are getting into to fly out. That's the major airline hub. They come from other African nations in most cases. They die vomiting on airplanes, or they're found dead in pools of blood and vomit and feces, not to get too detailed here, in Houston. And they're just told instantly Ebola ruled out before they even get the dead body off the plane in the case of JFK. But the telltale sign is the medical people don't want to be around it. The folks cleaning up the airplanes are on strike. They're scared, saying there's vomit all over the place. It looks like there is a flood of refugees, medical refugees, out of West Africa here because other African countries won't let them in. I mean, undoubtedly, if 2 nurses got Ebola from patient 0, and then now they say it's all stopped, when this guy was running around for a week and a half vomiting everywhere, doctor, does that make any sense to you? I mean, what you're saying and what others are telling us is this is happening in Dallas, you name it, the same thing. They come in, they disappear them. We have it from the Border Patrol that the same thing's going on. Do you think they're trying to cover this up so there won't be a panic? If they were doing that, why would they then not stop the flights? I mean, it'd be one thing if they were disappearing people to Army bases, which they were supposed to begin with, is just publicly take them there, where they're level 4, that's the default. But then why would they still let them come in and then let people that have it spread it? And why would the CDC tell a nurse that treated an Ebola patient, hey, I have a fever, is it okay if I fly to visit family? And they tell her yes. What does this sound like to you?
Well, there's several different scenarios. I mean, either they're deliberately trying to cause this to spread, number one. Number two, they don't want to cause a panic. And there's hundreds or thousands of people that already have it. And it's just a matter of time before that people become aware of this. And they're trying to delay it as much as possible so they can get ready to try to deal with the panic. or it absolutely makes no sense. And we're told at our hospital that if we have a suspected Ebola patient, to not use the word Ebola, not to to say they have some type of viral illness, put them in isolation, but not to use that terminology with they're threatening people that you'll be fired, you'll be let go if you even use the word Ebola. And another interesting thing I wanted to bring up.
Dr. Lorenzi, stay there. That is bombshell. That just clicked. They've been ordered in major cities 2 weeks ago on the police networks. In New York, the firefighters and others have been told, do not use the word Ebola, use code words. And there's the Daily Mail headline for TV viewers. So clearly we know there's a cover-up going on. That's key proof right there. That is amazing. So you specifically and others have been told, do not let people know if there's an Ebola case?